What on earth happened in the month of July in Edmonton's real estate market? You're going to want to stay tuned. We're going to start that right now. Hi, this is Melody Wilson with the Real Life team at RE/MAX Elite. Today, I'm talking to you all about what happened in the single-family home market in Edmonton in terms of real estate statistics and what does that mean for you. So as a family, if you're thinking of upgrading, downsizing, buying your first home, you'll want to take a look at this video because we're going to go over all the details of what the statistics means to you. So last month I talked to you about how busy the June market was. And what we're finding is that the June market on the ground was really busy in terms of offers being written and deals going pending. But it's not till the month of July that we see conditions being lifted and being sold. So those statistics show up in this last month's market stats because in July we are telling you how many properties have sold and how many properties were listed. So no big surprise, the month of July statistics show us at an extreme seller's market. This is the highest number we've had. Even compared to last year, our market statistics were higher to sell your home in the month of July. Now, it wasn't actually getting an offer necessarily in July, it was getting an offer in June and having conditions lifted in July, therefore sold. So we had seen an amazing turnaround in our market for that month. We went up to 71% of the odds of selling your home. It was extremely high. Our listings were hitting the market, getting an offer and selling, obviously, within the few weeks. So that is a really good thing for sellers. For buyers, buyers had to move a lot quicker. Buyers had to be more decisive and actually go forward with a decision. And we saw a lot of buyers come out into the market in the month of June and July looking for properties because they wanted to get an offer written before they were maybe going away in July and August or just enjoying the summer that we have here in Edmonton. So if you look at the market status over the last year, you'll see that we were in July, still a pretty decent number, but you see in August we start to peter off, September peter off as well. There was a little blip in October, but that's again because of some mortgage rule changes last year, and it encouraged people to buy. We had a little bit of a delayed market as well last year. So this year, what is the expectation? If you're looking at buying a home this year, we're still expecting to see some really good market activity because the interest rates are at extreme low. That hasn't seemed to change, and we had a little bit of an influx a few years ago where we thought the interest rates were actually kind of climbing again, but we have seen the interest rates stay at an all-time low, and that makes sense with the economy. They want to encourage people to still borrow money. However, that being said, they're being very careful with who's borrowing money. So if you want to look at your odds of selling or buying a house in the Edmonton market, if you're looking at a single family home, you are going to be looking at more of a balanced market. I would suspect we're going to move that arrow over more to the balance side and maybe even more to the buyer side. We've noticed that the market has gotten a lot quieter in the last few weeks. And again, if we want to see August statistics shoot up and be high, we would actually have already seen that in July. The market would have already been super hot in July to have that happen for August. So I'm suspecting that we're going to have a little bit lower than July. Not too extreme, but it's definitely not as busy. So no big surprise, the average price, it was actually quite high. It went up by 3% from the month before. And if you look at last year, it also went up higher than last year at the same time in July. So we had a really encouraging market for our real estate market in Edmonton in terms of that. Now, if you're thinking as a buyer, you're not getting any deals, you're still getting a good price. Homes that have been sold in the last month are still selling for a good price. We were at an all-time low in our economy, in our Edmonton real estate market, so you're still getting good pricing. Our market doesn't seem to continue to climb at a spike. It's not staying at that. If we had the same amount of activity that we did in June and July, we would start to see our prices continue to rise and kind of almost be cognizant of more like the 2007, which is not happening. It went up in July. We were hoping that things would last a little bit longer, but it seems that it's already starting to peter off. So what that means as a seller, if you're thinking of buying, because the prices have gone up, it doesn't mean your house now is worth 3% more than it was last month. We got to look at what's happening recently, and I can sit down and show you what's been going on in the last 30, 60 days to show you a really specific, accurate market value of your property. And for buyers, there's still opportunities. Now, buyers, I told you this in the last video, new home builds they're decreasing their discounts because of, to them, they feel like the market's really picked up and they don't need to really incentivize people anymore because people are still coming in. Now let's be careful and watch that, because I suspect they're going to have a little bit of a slowdown, just like we will in the resale in the next few months, and we may see a bit more incentives come back. They may not go back to what they used to be, but let me know, because I'm always in tune with what's happening with the builder discounts. In July, we had just over 1,200 properties listed that were new listings or single family home listings. And in terms of sold, we had just over 800. So that's a pretty high statistic. Now, obviously, those 800 that were sold include not just the ones that were listed, but also include the ones that were already on the market. We have seen the inventory levels drop. They're still right now actually a lot lower than they have been in the last 6 months. So if you are thinking of selling, this is still a great opportunity, because there's still not as much competition out there to sell. If there's just yourself and no others, you can tell that you're going to have a higher chance of selling. Now, we're not moving as quickly as we were a few months ago, so you still have to be very aggressive on your price. If you're a buyer, there's still a lot of options for you in this market. So if you want to be one of those properties sold, we want to have save searches set up for you, so that as soon as we get a new listing that hits the market, we're able to tell you right away and we can move on that property right away. There's also some properties that are not currently on the MLS. There's still some people waiting and wanting to see how the market does. But realtors like us, we know what's going to come on the market. We know clients are waiting to see what's happening. So if you let us know what you're looking for, we can find those for you that are not on the market. So when you look at the sold properties from month over month and year over year, we've gone up. And if you look at the listings, like I said before, we've gone down month over month, but we've also gone down from last year. So that's really interesting, because again, last year we were not even in the pandemic market. We were in a normal declining market. So don't forget, we weren't in an average balanced market. We were in a massive buyer's market last year. So the average days on market, no surprise, went down quite substantially over the last year. 48 days on market for the month of July. Things were moving a lot quicker. Things that were sitting on the market were actually selling. Things that were coming on the market were selling right away. And we saw that with all of our listings as well. Anything that was listed in June, a lot of them moved very quickly if they were priced correctly and staged and marketed. Properties have not sold this quickly for over the last couple of years. So that was a really good month of activity in June that we saw the results in July. The average days on market has been pretty consistent over the last year, and I suspect it will continue to go up. In August, it may stay pretty similar, but I suspect in the fall and months, we're probably going to see it probably back in the 50s and 60 days average on market. Now, when you're looking at your house specifically, does that mean that if you have a single family home and you're thinking, oh man, it's time to upgrade my home, we're outgrowing our house, plan for 60 days? That's not true at all. Depending on the marketing strategy, your pricing, with our clients, we tend to sell our homes within the 30 days as long as we have all the check boxes in place of marketing, price, and our strategy of exposure. We can still get your property sold within that 30-day range. Now, it all depends, because there's so many different factors, and of course there's things that we can't control, like the economy and what the real estate market is doing in general, but there are things that we can do. So you want to figure out what are the things that you can do to actually expedite the days on market, and why would you want to sell faster? Well, I'm guessing you want to increase the value of your property. The sooner you sell your property, the sooner we can get the price that you want, if it's priced correctly. If you're priced or overpriced, we're not going to get an offer close to your market, because they look at market value. Buyers look at the market value to see what has sold, and if it's a good deal, it makes sense, and it's valued, they can see the value in it and they can just move in, it's a no-brainer. So I mentioned, if you're thinking about upgrading, usually what we see for price points that people are spending when they're upgrading, they usually are selling their home anywhere from the $200,000-300,000 price range, and then they're upgrading into the $400,000, maybe $500,000 and higher price points. So if you take a look at this graph of the market distribution, you can see the $300,000 to $400,000 is the most popular price point that we have. It always is. And then when you're upgrading, you're falling into the $400,000, $500,000, or maybe $500,000, $600,000, and you can see your competition is lower. So what does that mean? This means it's a great market to upgrade your home, because you're getting the most amount of buyers to buy your home, which means hopefully there's a higher demand for your property, which means you can get potentially the most amount of money for that home. Then when you look at the homes that are more expensive, there's less buyers, which means less competition to buy your upgrading home. So then because there's less competition, usually that means we can get a better price. If you're looking at downsizing, you can see how that statistic kind of goes backwards because you have less buyers in that pool of the home. Let's say your home is worth over 500, you want to downsize to like a 400,000 price point. You're going to go from a not as active, not as many buyers buying to one that's more competitive. So you can see right now we definitely have a great opportunity to upgrade. As first-time home buyers, if you're a new family starting out, you can see that entering the market in the $200,000 to $300,000 price range, not as much competition, but I will say a caveat that it is very difficult to find a home without condo fees in that price, in the lower end of that price point. If you're looking for a single family move-in ready, that's a little bit more challenging. We have found a few of those. We've even found some unicorns, but they're very hard to find. So if you're thinking about the average price of $445,000 and you want to buy a house in the $200,000 price range, you have to understand that very likely you're going to be buying either a smaller house, a house that's not move-in ready, that needs a lot of work. You may even be looking at homes that have some substantial structural issues. We've looked at a lot of homes in the $200,000 to $300,000 range and seen a lot of homes that have cracks in the foundation, grading issues. Because of the age of the home, we've got electrical that's not needing to be upgraded. So you want to know what's all involved, because spending less doesn't always mean that you'll spend less in general. There's a lot of opportunities. Example, on the new build end, you've got townhomes with no condo fees, and those range in the low 300s. In Edmonton, in some surrounding areas, we can get you under 300,000. So hopefully this video helped you and your family to decide what you should do for next steps. Should you be looking at upgrading your home? Should you be looking at buying your first home? I'm happy to help you figure out different areas that would make sense in terms of where they are located for schools. And even though we're not going necessarily all back to school in the fall, that is not going to be forever, right? So you want to be located close to parks, playgrounds, green spaces, places that you could maybe walk to, or maybe some spray parks and some new areas with walking paths. Let me know if you have any questions. Don't forget to subscribe to not miss out on any videos for families, and we'll talk to you next time.